Ilang dekada nang pinoproblema ng bansa kung paano lulutasin ang problema sa Mindanao. Dumaan sa iba't ibang kamay ang pagbalangkas ng usaping pangkapayapaan sa pagitan ng mga rebeldeng grupo at pamahalaan. Subalit hindi umusad sa ilalim ng mga nakaraang administrasyon. Pero sa pagpupursige ni Pangulong Duterte na isabatas ang Bangsamoro Organic Law at ang minimithing kapayapaan sa Mindanao ay tila abot kamay na. Inihahandog ng Presidential Communications Operations Office, Office of the Global Media and Public Affairs, ang dokumentaryo ukol sa makasaysayang pagbabago sa buhay ng mga Bangsamoro. Ito po ang totoong kwento.
Ang ganitong eksena ay halos pangkaraniwan na sa mga mata ng mga taga-Bangsamoro. Palitan ng bala at bomba mula sa dalawang nag-uumpugang puwersa ng militar at rebelde. At dahil sa mga naganap na kaguluhan takot at pangamba ang naghahari sa damdamin ng mga Mindanawan. Nagkaroon ito ng reputasyon bilang isang magulong rehiyon na dapat iwasan.
They continue to burn, ambush, detonate bombs. Talagang full-blown terrorism. Ngayon, nagmamakaawa ako sa inyo. Tulungan ninyo ako. Because otherwise, he said, if I give the order for an all-out offensive, it will be bloody and it will be sad.
Ako po si JV Arcena. Kumustahin natin ang ating mga kababayang hindi sumusuko na makamtan ang minimiting kapayapaan at kaginhawaan sa buong Mindanao. July 26, 2018. Mahalaga ang okasyong ito dahil sa pagkakaratipikan ng batas na magbabago sa buhay ng mga taga-Mindanao, ang Bangsamoro Organic Law.
As the centerpiece legislation of my administration, the BOL has been the product of a long and rigorous process that involved meaningful and exhaustive consultations by one another and for all of us here. We listen to the indispensable sentiments and concerns of Muslim, Christians, Lumaj, and other indigenous peoples and various stakeholders who also call Mindanao their home, and rightly so.
Ang makasaysayang tagpong ito ay dulot ng maraming taong proseso ng pag-uusap sa pagitan ng mga nagdaan at kasalukuyang administrasyon at ng mga grupong Moro National Liberation Front o MNLF at Moro Islamic Liberation Front o MILF. Ang hidwaan sa Mindanao ay malalim ang pinag-ugatan.
Looking back at history, we know of the unjust treatment of the Moro people throughout, not just by yung dati-dati pa, even during the Spanish era, the American colonization in Mindanao, the massacre in Budao, in Sulu, by the American forces. So the unjust treatment of the Moro people goes way, way back, even before the formation of the MNLF and what sparked the revolution nung nagkaroon ng massacre, the Jebito massacre. So this unjust treatment of the aspirations of the Moro people and even the indigenous peoples in the region has gone on for centuries.
There has been settlement policies which actually encourage yung movement ng mga Christians from Luzon and Visayas occupying lands in Mindanao. And this actually affected yung population natin in Mindanao, which caused conflict. It's not only about yung political alienation mo. It's actually on economic deprivation. And then not all services have been provided to Muslims in Mindanao. And as you can see, yung history, makita mo talagang if you rank them in poverty scale, nandoon karamihan.
Samut-saring pangapi ang naranasan ng mga Bangsamoro. Umabot sa sukdula ng kanilang pagtitimpi nang naganap ang Jabida Massacre at ang Manili Massacre. Dahil dito, unti-unting nabuo sa kanilang kaisipan ang mag-imagsik.
Na-trigger sila. That's when we know na they organized, nagbuo sila ng organisasyon to fight back against the government, that they perceive na nag-persecute sa kanila. If yun ang titingnan natin na what triggered them, ito na yung pagbuo na ng MNLF during the 1970s na binuo ni Professor Moro Islamic.
We have been inspired by the struggles of our people, of our fathers, for the last 400 years. The Moro people have been fighting. And it is from there that we pick the baton that our people deserves freedom, deserves the progress that other peoples of the world are enjoying. So that when we felt that we were being oppressed, isolated, and looked down, that's the reason why we decided to fight for freedom.
The Organization of Islamic Countries, they intervened and then they facilitated the negotiations between the government of the Philippines and the MNLF.
Sa panahon ng administrasyon ni Ferdinand Marcos, nabuo ang kauna-unahang usapang pangkapayapaan, ang Tripoli Agreement.
Why is it important? Yung Tripoli Agreement kasi, yan yung product ng dialogue, initial dialogue ito between the MNLF and the government of the Philippines. This is important because it's proof that by peaceful negotiations, magkakaroon ng agreement yung isang rebel group at ang government, thereby avoiding all of these yung war, casualties, displacement of communities.
Taong 1987, niratipikahan ang 1987 Constitution sa ilalim ng pamumuno ni Pangulong Cory Aquino.
It's historic in the context of the peace process kasi dito na nagkaroon ng recognition ng autonomous regions as a solution to these long-standing conflicts, building on the solutions that were already brought about ng mga nakaraang taon sa mga previous agreements. By having an autonomous region,
It is compounded by successive yung mga government policies. Meron ng human rights violation, which was actually highlighted during the 1970s. It awakened yung identity nila, their self-identity as being Bangsamoro. And this is actually the basis of why they are striving for autonomous government.
so you're working within the Constitution, but you recognize the minorities, you recognize their struggles, you recognize the legitimacy of their cause. So that's why the 1987 Constitution is historic and in more ways than one.
The Muslim people have their identity long before, even before the establishment of the Philippine state. Before pa tayo nagkaroon ng idea of nationhood, the Bangsamoro people was already there. In the 1987 Constitution, it's provided there. Mismong yung mga framers ng Constitution, they recognize that there are two entities within the Philippine state that has a distinct culture and background, and that is the Cordilleras and the Bangsamoro.
Matapos mapagtibay ang batas, natutugon sa hiling na otonomiya ng mga kapatid nating Muslim, nagbigay daan ito sa pagkakabuo ng Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao o ARMM.
When the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, the Organic Law was passed, a plebiscite was conducted. Bumoto yung mga tao sa mga probinsya ng Mindanao del Sur, Maguindanao, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, and they voted to be included dito sa ARMM. So, yun ang naging significance ng taong 1989 na the ARMM was formed.
Sa gitna ng mga pag-uusap sa pagitan ng gobyerno at MNLF, isang grupo naman ang nabuo at agresibo ang pag-atake. Ang Moro Islamic Liberation Front na nooy pinamunuan ni Hashim Salamat.
During the course of the history of the MNLF, a breakaway group was formed by Hashim Salamat, and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front was formed around 1984.
Sa pagkakabuo ng MILF, dalawang pwersa na ang kinakaharap ng pamahalaan. Ngunit sa kabila ng pagdami ng mga rebelde at paglala ng kaguluhan, naisagawa ang pagbalangkas sa isa pang peace agreement sa ilalim ng Administrasyong Ramos.
You know, the 1996 peace agreement is supposed to be the implementation. That is why it was called final peace agreement, because dapat ito yung implementasyon ng triple agreement. You know, the triple agreement is supposed to be the mother of all agreements. You know.
Subalit ang inakalang tutuldok sa kaguluhan, nasundan ng mga kaganapan na tumatak sa kasaysayan. Dahil sa lumalalang kaguluhan sa Mindanao, nagdeklara ng ceasefire ang gobyerno at naipagpatuloy muli ang peace talk.
This is already the signing of the Comprehensive Agreement on the Bangsamoro, the CAB na tinatawag namin. Under the Comprehensive Agreement on the Bangsamoro, again, this is also a culmination of all of these talks between the government and the MILF naman at this point. So because of the CAB and the agreement of the Philippines to form a Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, we had this paved the way for the enactment of the Bangsamoro Organic Law.
Even some progressive leaders of the Philippine government tried to persuade us na hindi muna tayo maglulunsad ng agad-agarang digmaan dahil meron pa namang pag-asa para hanapin ang kapayapaan.
Another way of looking at it sa tingin ko really is more than having the political will, being someone from Mindanao, he knows firsthand ano talaga yung devastating effects nitong conflict. So he knows, and then he understands the culture. He understands the long history that really brought all of us here. So because of that, I think more than political will, knowing all of that, understanding all of that, yun talaga nagdala sa pagpasa ng BOL.
Later on, tuloy-tuloy na hanggang sa nag-start yung pag-draft ng first na BBL noong 2014, pero ngayon lang, ng time ni President Duterte, nagkaroon na tayo ng Bangsamoro government. So, makikita mo pataas actually yung trajectory ng peace process, picking up from the lowest low.
This landmark law was not built entirely from scratch. It echoes the aspirations and principles embodied in the past peace agreements with different Moro fronts. Indeed, it is a product of the blood, sweat, and tears of many great men who came before us.
Kasi dati, the insurgents would not want to set their foot in Malacanang. But we were able to bring the MLF, many of them, several times back to Malacanang. So that's actually a recognition that they want to be part of the Philippine state. When they took oath for the BTC, even for the signing of the BBL, lahat nun, nandyan ang MLF. And I think it's really the hope. Naniniwala sila na the government would still be committed to pursue yung peace process.
Kinausap ko ang sarili ko, sabi ko, bawal po akong hahapak. Di ba naka-read format yung kwan eh. Sabi ko, anong iuna ko, kanan o kaliwa? Kasi talagang wala akong isip matatapak ng Malacanang.
The purpose of the Bangsamoro Organic Law, it's not just the creation of the political entity which is known as the BARMM. It's not just that. It's more on the recognition ng justness and legitimacy of the cause of the Bangsamoro people. Yung pinaglaban talaga nila, ito na yun.
Isa sa probisyon na nakasaad sa BOL ay ang pagtatalaga sa pamumuno ng Bangsamoro Transition Authority. Ang leader na ito ay galing sa MILF.
Now, I submit to you as chairman, through you as chairman of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, with simple recognition of our constituents who have sacrificed for more than 40 years of hard struggle. More than 120,000 people died in this struggle for more than 40 years. This is now the fruit of the struggle of the Bangsamoro people, and I am very honored to receive this law, this Bangsamoro Organic Law, as a symbol of the struggle of the Bangsamoro people.
when the BOL was ratified, talagang very high ang optimism ng mga tao. Everybody is expecting na, kasi marami ng parang solution na ini-implement in the past sa problema natin dito sa South Philippines. Pero nakita nila na hindi rin successful. Yung BOL is a law that will translate the agreement. Para ma-implement, kailangan mo ng law.
Sisimula ng BTA ang pagpapatupad sa dalawang mahalagang punto ng BOL.
Yung BARMM ay pinalitan yung ARM as a political entity, and dito naman sa Comprehensive Agreement on the Bangsamoro ay meron din tayong two tracks na sinasabi. Ito po yung political track at saka yung normalization track.
These two tracks, they're really born out of the agreements between the GPH and the MILF. Sa political track, since it's political, this involves the passage of the Bangsamoro Organic Law, the establishment of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, and then eventually the election of the Bangsamoro Parliament. When you talk about the normalization track naman, first, ano ba tong normalization that you keep hearing on and on about pag pinag-usapan na yung GPH and MILF process? It's the process whereby conflict-affected communities can return to conditions whereby they can achieve their desired quality of life, which includes the pursuit of sustainable livelihood and political participation within a peaceful, deliberative society. You have these communities, you have these people na for several years, all they've known is conflict, all they know is war, hidwaan. Pero sa process ng normalization, itatransform mo yung communities nila, itatransform mo yung lives nila para mabigyan mo sila ng opportunity. Finally, may opportunity na sila to have livelihood, to have jobs, to pursue education, to feel secure and safe in their homes.
Sa political track is yung organization ng BARMM at saka yung mga pag-uusap sa mga ibang paggawaan ng mga codes. Sa normalization track din po ay ito yung commitment ng government to implement programs, especially in the four aspects of denormalization. Ito po yung security aspect, yung socio-economic, yung confidence building, at saka yung TJR, o yung Transitional Justice and Reconciliation.
Sa ilalim ng normalization track, unti-unting kinakitaan na ng mga pagbabago ang ilan sa mga lugar sa Mindanao. Katulad na lamang ng Camp Darapanan sa Maguindanao na pinagkutaan ng MILF taong 2000 matapos bumagsak ang Camp Abubakar.
Noong una kong dalaw dito sa Camp Darapanan, mahigit isang dekada na po ang nakalipas. Ito po ay talagang literal na kampo ng nooy nag-aaklas ng Moro Islamic Liberation Front. Napapalibutan po ito ng mga armadong MILF. Liblib po ang lugar, putik-putik yung kalsada, nakatent yung mga bahay at kubo-kubo lamang. Pero tingnan nyo naman ngayon ang malaking pagbabago. Dahil sa usapang pangkapayapaan at pagkakapirma ng Bangsamoro Organic Law, ang laki ho ng pag-unlad dito sa Camp Darapanan. Konkreto na ang mga kalsada, yung mga bahay na mga nakatira dito ay mga konkreto na rin. At may kita mo dito sa buong komunidad ang pamilya at mga kabataan na namumuhay sa isang mapayapang bayan.
Yamin kambirayakan mo timpo mapasan, nanalagam, gabaliatan taganggura. Ay kadi tapaka pamantiali ko, ananta sa dimbaka. Nasaguna niya na pakaling kasuta ka. Arne awa kuana ta pamantialian ta. Mungkin sama na masuk kuana yung kuana kapag ina peso kan. Napasaran kagi nang butang man makesa sa ngiman nami. Kapiangan na itungan.
Maging ang makasaysayang lugar ng Barangay Gambar sa Kabuntalan, Maguindanao ay kinakitaan na rin ng pagbabago.
Yung Barangay Gambar, itong nasa Kabuntalan, ito yung birthplace ng isa sa pinaka-senior na leader ng Moro Islamic Liberation Front. Dito rin nagmi-meet yung Central Committee ng MILF nung kasagsagan pa ng giyera in the 70s. Ito, lahat ng bahay rito halos nasunog nung kasagsagan ng gyera. Naging lugar ito na kung saan nagputap ng malakas na depensa yung MILF nung kasagsagan ng gyera. So nasunog halos lahat ng mga bahay rito. Ngayon lang na nagkaroon ng kapayapaan na unti-unti bumabalik yung mga tao, and then yung development paunti-unti na rin pumapasok rito. May mga kalsada na, may mga facilities na tinatayo. In the few weeks from now, sisimulan na rin natin yung isang malaking market rito. Kasi dati talagang dito na mamalengke yung mga tao. So i-revive natin yon.
Isang paraan ng pagpapanatili ng kapayapaan ay ang decommissioning ng mga puwersa o miyembro ng MILF.
With the signing of the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro, yung MILF, they agreed to undergo decommissioning of their forces and of their firearms.
And if you decommission them, yung term kasi na decommission, that is part of the negotiation. But primarily, in other peace processes, ang ibig sabihin talaga ng decommission is when you apply yung DDR. When you dismantle them, you demobilize them, and then you integrate them to the society. So you disarm the MLF so that they can become civilian members of the society, no longer is MLF na armed. So part po no, ng transformation nila is you provide them socio-economic intervention so that they can transition from being armed individuals na conflict lagi ang mindset. You transform them, you assist them, the government assists them to transform, to transition to becoming productive individuals.
Yung nakikita nyo sa likuran ko, ito yung mga container vans na naglalaman ng mga decommissioned firearms and weapons or ammunitions mula sa Moro Islamic Liberation Front. Pinangangasiwaan ito o binabantayan ng independent decommissioning body.
Ito yung decommissioning ng 40,000 combatants and 7,000 weapons. Nandyan din po yung creation ng JPST, yung Joint Peace and Security Teams, na kung saan nag-create po tayo ng security teams to secure yung mga community ng mga combatants, na kung saan sila ay binibigyan ng protection kasi dinidecommission natin sila at kinukuha natin yung baril na. So para ma-secure sila ay nag-create tayo ng JPST.
Nabuo ang Project Tugon na tutulong upang mapadali ang proseso ng decommissioning.
Yung Project Tugon, is a comprehensive package para sa mga former combatants galing sa BIFF and other threat groups na nagbalik loob sa gobyerno, umakap ng kapayapaan. So from psychosocial intervention, profiling and needs assessment, and then nagpo-provide sila ng financial assistance, livelihood assistance, housing, para makabalik itong mga former combatants sa kanilang communities na maging productive citizens ulit.
There are already some BIFF members who are opting to rejoin the MILF because this BIFF actually came from the MILF. So we have accounted about 900 of them, more than 900, willing to rejoin.
Sa ngayon, matanda na ako, na pag-isip-isipan ko, magbalik loob na ako dahil matanda na ako, mahina ng katawan. Dahil sa ito, na-meet natin ang bilang Bangsamoro government, itong BARMM. Kung wala yung BARMM, siguro ako mismo hindi tayo magkikita-kita. Na i-promise ko sa sarili ko, hindi ako maglalabas. Pero yung harap namin, nandito na yung BARMM, ano pa bang hinihintay namin? Diyan lang kami. Ito na lang sinusuporta namin, yung BARMM government.
Meron silang discussion on giving a 1 million worth of socio-economic packages. Pero hindi itong cash na binibigay na 1 million. Yung binanggit ko po kanina na 100,000 as immediate cash assistance after being decommissioned. So from there, yung sa livelihood projects ay makikita natin kung anong trabaho ang kailangan ng isang kombatan.
Mas malaya ring makakagalaw ang BARMM sa pagdating sa pagpapatupad ng mga proyekto. Sa kasalukuyan, ang expanded territory ng BARMM ay sumasakop sa Cotabato City, 63 barangay sa North Cotabato at ang 5 probinsya sa ilalim ng dating ARMM. Ito ay ang Maguindanao, Lanao del Sur, Basilan, Sulu at Tawi-Tawi.
Merong distinct culture, yung mga tao rito, built over centuries of tradition. So may mga ibang estilo nung pagmamanage nung mga tao rito na kailangan natin i-adapt.
On the aspect of autonomy, the BARMM is more autonomous than the ARMM. One example is the allocation of fundings. The BARMM have a fixed source of funding, which is the block grant, and it is not. It is the provision. It should be downloaded comprehensively and without any need of any action
From the
national government.
Sa 2 taong pagkakatatag ng BARMM, may mga hamong kinakaharap ang pamunuan nito.
Well, it is both challenging and also a thing of fulfillment. Challenging is because we have been in a revolutionary movement for decades. We never have been in a governance like this. So, yun, challenging because we have to adjust on our own in order to meet the needs of the time. Na kami ngayon ay hindi na revolutionary kundi.
At ang mga rebeldeng minsang lumaban, ngayon ay bahagi na ng pagbabago sa tamang paraan.
Actually, very significant nga yung pagiging part ng Bangsamoro Transition Authority ni Commander Bravo. He's one of the notorious MLF commanders, and then now he is in governance.
He's working for the government na as a member of parliament. So para siyang fruit, kumbaga, ng peace process na itong isang MLF commander na i-bring namin na into the fold, and it is in fact working for the good of all communities in this area na dati ina-attacking nga.
Dito na yung kapayapaan.
Nagbago na.
Napakalaking pinagbago. Sa ngayon kami dito, nakikita dito, maraming security, maraming humahawak ng baril. Dahil unang-una, ako yung operation commander dito. Pangalawa, yung baril ng GPST na hindi pa na-issue sa kanila, kami ang caretaker.
BARMM is a legacy of the President. Nakita namin na kung hindi siya ang naging presidente, our prediction ni hindi pa mai-implement yung agreement.
Ang pinakamahalaga dito is yung kapayapaan, yung pagsisikap, yung pagtanggap na dapat merong kapayapaan. But there are steps, there are requirements for it to survive, for it to flourish.
As we mark a new chapter in our history, I call upon Bangsamoro to take advantage of this opportunity and finally correct the historical injustice and forget the bitterness of the past so that we may embrace each other as Filipinos.
Ang kapayapaan ang unang hakbang patungo sa magandang pamumuhay at kinabukasan. Maaring makamit kung bibigyan lamang ng pagkakataon at panahon.
Before I end, let me repeat and reiterate my solemn promise, a sacred one, which I promise also to Allah, for His blessings, that in my term and for the next 3 years, we will all work and truly work for the benefit of the Bangsamoro people. Salamat po.
Ang katuparan ng kapayapaang ito ang pamana ng ating mahal na Pangulo.
kauna-unahang pagkakataon ng pagsali sa 2021 Stevie Awards, huwagi agad ang ating mga kaagapay sa serbisyo publiko. Mula sa halos 700 kalahok sa Asia-Pacific region, kinilala ng prestiyosong award-giving body ang kalidad at galing ng PCOO. Secretary Martin Andanar, Media Hero of the Year. Assistant Secretary J.V. Arsena, Media Hero of the Year at Government Hero of the Year. The Virtual Presser and Virtual Reporting Tour, panalo ng award for Innovation in Media, Visual Communications and Entertainment at Award for Innovation in Media Relations. Best Use of Social Media COVID-19 Related Information, PCOO Laging Handa Digital Campaign at ang Laging Handa Docu, panalo ng award for innovation in documentaries. Maraming salamat sa Stevie Awards. Congratulations, PCOO!